And good afternoon. This is attorney Carrie Meldon with Meldon Law Friends. I'm sitting in here in place of my father, Jeffrey, who's in New Orleans teaching a legal class at the Association of Justice seminar, which is really fun. I know he loves the podcast, so he'll be watching this on his mobile Facebook app. As y'all know out there, we are streamed live on Facebook, and we do take questions. So if you have any questions during today's exciting interviews, please feel free to type them in. We usually, we've been doing a lot of ticket giveaways throughout the year. Obviously, we're associated with the Florida Gators as the official law firm partner, and we'll get into that a little bit more after we start the interview. But I want to let everyone know out there that we are still doing giveaways for the fall coming up for all of our tickets for Gator sporting events. And you can always find the most updated information on our Facebook and Instagram pages. So go to our Facebook, Instagram pages. We're doing a July 4th giveaway. We're doing some other giveaways before the fall starts. And we're going to be ramping up for football. It should be an incredible season. We've got Coach Napier, who has just gotten a few really highly regarded commits. I was speaking with Buddy Martin, who knows everything about Florida sports, and our football team is finally getting some really good players. So Coach Napier is working hard to restore the Gators at the rightful helm of college football. So without further ado, I'm really excited, and I am proud to introduce Alex Noboa to today's episode of Meldon Law Friends. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
So
being out here.
I heard some really great news right before we started. Why don't we tell the audience a little bit about the new addition to your family?
Yeah, so my wife and I just had our first child, baby Amelia. She's 2 months old on this past Sunday. So,
wow.
Yeah. If I look tired, that's why.
I was about to say, I don't know how much you're sleeping, but you seem like you're a young buck. Now, that's great news. How is it being? Does it feel different being a father?
Yes. World turned upside down, but in the greatest way.
Wonderful.
Obviously, the greatest thing I look forward to going home is getting to hold her. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to welcome Amelia Noboa to Gainesville, Florida.
Yeah.
She's born and raised in Gainesville, I'm assuming, right?
Yep.
Love it. Well, let's talk a little bit about your background. So my understanding is that you were also born and raised in Florida.
Yep,
So
absolutely. Born and raised in Florida, big family. Grew up with 3 older brothers and a younger sister. Sports have always been just a massive part of our lives. Grew up playing soccer, transitioned into kicking, which furthered my education. So went to undergrad up in North Carolina at Brevard College.
Right. You were a kicker there, right?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. And then
What was your longest field goal?
a 47-yarder.
That's a pretty long field goal.
Not too bad.
That's really good, yeah.
But yeah, and then hanging up the cleats, it was kind of like, I was just like, dang, I really want to stay in the sports industry. How can I go about that? So UCF is close to home. The DeVos Sports Business Management program was right there. Earned an MBA and a Master's in Sports Business Management, which then just introduced me to a massive network. Worked with the Magic, Orlando City Soccer, and then got introduced to Avon Health on their sports partnerships team.
And the DeVos Sports Management program is highly acclaimed. Can we tell the listeners a little bit about what you had to do when you were matriculated in the program?
Yeah. So definitely prestigious. Take around 20 to 25 students a year. So pretty sought out program. I was involved in community service. Had that sports background prior, and then just huge on diversity and ethics in sports, which is a major topic right now. And the positive, what sports does for communities and the positive impact that it has on communities.
Absolutely.
Which resonated with me, and that's what interests me as well to that program. And shout out to Dr. Lapchick, who got me into that program.
And Dr. Lapchick, is he currently affiliated with that program, or?
So he actually just announced his last year. So he's hanging it up, but yeah, he's the reason I'm in the seat today.
That's incredible. I love that.
Thank him.
Yeah, I love when there's mentors that pass it for to the next generation. I mean, you obviously are in a huge company with regards to sports marketing. For the listeners out there that don't know much about Learfield, can you tell them a little bit about what Learfield is and what they do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of a leader in the college industry.
Yeah.
Manage the multimedia rights to over 200 plus Division I schools. So, obviously, specific with Florida Gators. So, me to get this opportunity, work in the SEC, work for such a powerful brand, the most fans in the state of Florida, and that's including professional sports.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a privilege to work here, and great experience.
I did not know much about Learfield before Meldon Law joined up with the Gator Sports Properties, but I can tell you when he says that they are the leader in this particular field, Alex, you're not exaggerating. It's like overwhelming the amount of schools and other types of teams that you guys have negotiated contracts with. And so it's the networking that you must have through this experience is incredible.
Yeah, and an advantage to that as well is the best practices. So we're able to then seek out other Power 5 schools, maybe even funnel it and filter it down to specific to SEC schools. Hey, what are you guys doing with this particular asset? What are you guys doing here at football? Have you worked with this brand before? So having that best practices and being able to drive that value to our partners is definitely a plus.
And I can tell you they do a great job. We've been, at Meldon Law, we've been very pleased with Learfields and their activation of our brand, and we want to continue what we believe to be a bountiful relationship for both of us. I can tell you that Learfield has done such a good job that we have a lot of other business owners come up to me and ask me how to get involved with Learfield, and so I always tell them that between Lee Douglas, yourself, and John Toll, the team is absolutely incredible, very easy to talk to, very open, not stuck up, even though it's such a incredibly huge, billion-dollar company probably.
Yeah.
It's huge. So going back a little bit, you after you graduated from the sports business management program, you said you worked for Advent Health. Is that correct?
Correct.
So
yeah.
Tell the listeners a little bit about what Advent Health is.
Yeah. So a hospital that's in 7 states, specific to Florida. We have big sports partnerships with the Orlando region, Tampa, and then as well in Daytona. So I worked on the Orlando team, so got to work hand in hand with the Orlando Magic.
That's awesome.
The Orlando Solar Bears, their G League team. Run Disney is massive there. And Florida Citrus Sports, they host the bowl games at the Camping World Stadium.
Right.
So just the official hospital for all those partners. So it gave me that advantage to learn the brand side prior to coming over here, and so I feel like that's what I was able to bring to the table.
We have a office in Ocala right across from Advent on 441, and it's definitely a really beautiful facility. Advent's kind of the big dog now in Florida. I think it's continuing to grow. So you probably got in right at the perfect time as they're expanding their footprint within Florida.
Yeah, really got to learn under Jace Puttick. She was the director of the partnership team, still is there, and that really got my foot in the door here. And I wanted to shout her out too, because you always give thanks to who got you where you are.
No one gets anywhere without help. Very few people.
Exactly.
Most of the time it's a combination of preparation and luck, and then you just hope that you're able to not screw it up when that comes together.
Yeah.
But you guys are definitely doing a great deal of not only business relationships here in North Central Florida, but you also deal a lot with charitable organizations, giving free things, or I shouldn't say free things, but opportunities to underprivileged kids. I know we've worked before with you guys on the Rising Stars program.
Absolutely.
And it's just like doing incredible things for people that appreciate it. Sometimes you forget, at least I do in my position, how cool it is to go to a football game for the first time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what the sports industry, like sports, I wouldn't be here. Like, it's what I grew up on. It's what I learned my character from, teamwork, all those different values. And then that aspect of giving back to the community is always a plus. Seeing the smiles on the kids, seeing those, building up those fans at a young age is definitely a great feeling.
I agree. And you know, today, I think more than ever, sports is all about money. You see the big contracts, you see, you know, all of the stuff that's going on in the NFL and you know, Major League Baseball, $250 million contracts. And then you see like the golf tournaments, you know, the new golf organizations.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that sports is not just about money, though. It's about having these opportunities and these platforms that you're talking about that really do make a difference in people's lives. And the money's great, but it's more than that. And so it's really cool you get to be part of that.
Yeah, just I just read something on LinkedIn earlier. So Tampa Bay's CEO or president gave $5,000 to every front office employee, the Tampa Bay Lightning, $5,000 to donate to whatever
That's
fundraiser
amazing.
that they want to.
Right.
So yeah, it's
Isn't that incredible?
community platform. Just it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. So that I applaud the owner. I don't know who do you know who owns the Tampa Bay?
Vinix Sports Group.
Okay, very cool. Well, I'm a Tampa Bay fan. I don't really follow hockey that closely, but I was rooting for them in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So we are going to be going to break in a couple minutes, but before we do that, I want to talk a little bit before we get into your current position at Gator Sports Properties. What we'll do after the break, I want to get into a little bit more about, you know, what drove you to become involved with sports, you know, management, like, and how did you find out about this kind of niche profession?
Yeah. So graduated from undergrad, and I was just like, how there's a sports business, like sports runs for a reason. There's a business behind it aspect, and it just really piqued my interest. How can I get into this niche market? And honestly, my older brother, he's working at UCF, and he was just like, well, the DeVos Sports Business Management program, they have a prestigious program there. That could be a starting point to kind of apply there and get your foot in the door. I'm sure it'll lead to opportunities. And sure enough, I kind of wore several different hats at different part-time jobs while I was in the program, figuring out what I liked, what I didn't like. Sports partnerships is what piqued my interest, and that's where I got my foot in the door with Avon Health, and I really do. Building the relationships with partners, just having that relationship. It's not like I'm not just we're not signing contracts and saying have a good day. We are becoming partners, and we're there with you every step of the way, helping bring success to you, figuring out how best practices, how do we get better with you along the way. So
and I can attest to that you guys aren't just it's not just like you buy the car and then you got to figure out how to drive it. You know, you guys are there, every step of the way to make sure that if you decide to enter into a brand campaign with Gator Sports Properties and with Learfield, you're going to have the tools to be able to activate that brand successfully if you want to.
Absolutely.
And that's really important. So when we come back, I really want to talk about Gator Sports Properties. I think what you guys are doing here in Gainesville has been incredible, and I really want to make sure that we touch on that. Before we go to break, I want to let the people out there know, once again, if you want to enter into any of our free giveaways, you can do so on our Meldon Law Facebook page or our Meldon Law Instagram page. Just go on either one of the social platforms, and you'll be able to get free entry. So we're going to go to a break. We'll be back in a few seconds.
Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down. When you're a member of the Gator Nation, you know what it means to never back down. Meldon Law has been a proud supporter of the Gator Nation since 1971. Two forces that won't back down. As the old saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
And we're back here at Law Talk Live. We're here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. You can see the helmets in the back, as well as Steve Spurrier kicking the famous field goal for the win in October 29th of 1966. I'm looking at the date. So we're really cool. If you have not been to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, I implore everyone to come out here. The food is all farm to table. The facility is absolutely gorgeous. It's brand new. It's like a museum. You can see all these cool memorabilia, not just of Steve Spurrier, but of other Gators as well. And there's not really any place like this in North Central Florida. It's very, very unique. It's got, really kind of a casual atmosphere, yet you'll feel good. You can dress up or kind of come in casual either way and enjoy yourself. So we're really lucky to have Spurriers here, and we're happy to be in his podcast room. So without further ado, we're back here with Alex Noboa of Gator Sports Property. Alex was talking about his background and how he came into this particular type of occupation, which is sports management and working with brands. And I want to talk more now about specifically his experience with Gator Sports Property. So, Alex, you go to a small college in North Carolina where you play football at Brevard. Then you go to UCF and the sports management program there, and you start working with Advent, who has hospitals and associations in Daytona and Orlando and other places in Central Florida. How did you become how did this start with the Gators? Tell me, how this all began.
Yeah, so fortunately, that was a graduate assistantship with Advent Health, and once COVID hit, luckily my director there, Jace, allowed me to stay on the team, and it was kind of like she welcomed me on the team through COVID. She knew the challenges of what young professionals were facing applying during COVID. And then I saw this Florida Gators posting, I believe it was on LinkedIn, several hundred applicants.
Wow.
It's a very challenging industry to get into, but once you're in, you have that small network, and you all lean on each other and give back. But yeah, so being able to stay close to home.
Incredible. Yeah.
One of the, the biggest brand in sports in Florida.
Yes.
Why not?
Why not?
Go big.
What can you can't get any bigger than the Florida Gators when it comes to the collegiate field. I think even, Bama and Georgia aren't much, they may be better than the Gators on the field now, but the Gators sports programs have always been more well-rounded and better than anyone else in the SEC.
Exactly, well-rounded, and that's what helps us on the partnership side is we're not just selling into football. It's a year-round, 365 days that you can reach those fans, have your brand reaching the fans 365 days out of the year, and so it's good.
Well, we do appreciate, I know I've seen Alex at all the events. He shows up, he gets us organized, and so we don't know what we're doing. He says, come over here, you're going to be doing this at this time, and then we do it. And it's nice to have that sense of comfort that we know that you guys are going to take care of us and not just leave us hanging in the wind. I remember we were doing a tip-off for Florida and Kentucky, and I was like, I didn't want to go out there. There was 13,000 people that just wanted to watch the game. They didn't want to see a bunch of lawyers on the court, but Alex marched us out, and we felt like, we had some guidance, and it made it a lot more comfortable and a lot easier. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about, when you started with the Gators, it must have been COVID, right?
Yeah. So almost a year and a half now. Started on the partnership service side, so helping our sellers fulfill the accounts. Obviously, these accounts range from national partners, regional, to our local Gainesville partners.
Some of these partners that you work with are huge. I mean, you see the signs on the stadiums, as well as Fargo, I think, was one. I mean, you can talk about some of the largest ones that you guys have relationships with.
Yeah.
But they're like Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. You get the opportunity to talk with people
great,
from those huge companies.
Great,
and,
great connections there. And what I like is every day is different. I get to work in variety of sports, variety of partners, and all the different marketing platforms we're able to offer. I'm not just focused in on digital.
Right.
I'm not just focused in on radio or TV. It's all encompassing, along with on-site activation, social media, the community aspect.
It's crazy.
amazing.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, since we've joined with Gator Sports Properties, we've had to expand our marketing department probably 4 or 5 times, and we're still hiring in that area because the amount of activation that's necessary to fully achieve the value of the brand is very time consuming.
Absolutely.
You know, and I'm trying to be a lawyer too,
Yeah.
and the marketing
Yeah.
is it's fun, but I really enjoy being a lawyer too. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to surround myself, and you guys do a really good job of telling us what we can and cannot do. As what, of course, Freddie Weeby, who is our hero here in Meldon Law, because he's given us this opportunity to expand. I would be remiss not to give him credit as well,
Absolutely.
because he has done an incredible job of getting us maximum value for our relationship.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So going back to Gator Sports Properties, you know, obviously the Gators was a great fit for you because you were from the area. When you first moved up to Gainesville, how did you start? What did you start doing right from the beginning? Everything?
Yeah. So on the service side, just try to get involved as much as possible. It was a blessing in disguise that we actually became short-staffed, which allowed me to manage a lot more responsibilities. Get thrown in the deep end a little early.
Sure.
But you survive, and that's what you thrive on. Is those struggles is what brings you success. So yeah, wore several different hats, worked alongside several of our sales guys, helping fulfill those contracts in all aspects. But recently got promoted to associate of business development. So
Wow.
dipping my toe into sales, doing kind of a hybrid role of service side and sales.
I love that.
But yeah, so
Yes.
definitely-
Sales is fun. When you're selling a product like the Gators, it's fun.
Exactly, yeah. So, and understanding that brand now after over a year
Yeah.
of servicing it, knowing all the different sports, what we can and can't do, having those relationships with the UAA, and then already having these connections, building more within Gainesville, and yeah, exciting to take on this opportunity.
You don't know what it's like until you actually do it. It's like I always tell people, if I'm in trial, I can tell you how to hit a golf ball, but until you're out on the range hitting golf balls, you don't know what it feels like to hit a golf ball. So the fact that you were thrown in the deep end and you were put right into activation, I think is going to give you kind of a leg up on most of the contemporaries that are coming in after COVID.
Yeah, exactly. And just having that understanding of fulfillment, but now going on to the sales side, I know our product and I know how to serve it.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of sales, why don't you tell the listeners out there a little bit about what Gator Sports Property has to offer, and if there's any people that or businesses that may be interested in getting in touch with the Gators, how do they do it?
Yeah. So we have the 2 different avenues, right? So people understand the power of the Florida Gators. So we have some companies reach out to us, and then we kind of manage the relationship at that point. But then we're also proactive with kind of researching companies that we think they could gain value off of partnering with us. So kind of reaching out to them and explaining our capabilities, the digital, the radio, the TV, the marks and logos, the on-site activation, using tickets for VIP opportunities, our suites. The list just is endless.
Endless, it really is.
Yeah, so, and what I like is we're then able to pick and choose based off of that company's goals and objectives. So we are now tailoring it. It's not like we have this cut and dry thing, here's what we do. No,
exactly.
we can be unique with every relationship and fine tune it to those specific partners. And that's what I like about it, because then we're able to build that authenticity with our fans,
Right.
and really drive value for these brands.
Yeah, I mean, and it has to be authentic. You have to want to do it, and you have to be consistent in delivering the product. And I can tell you that you guys have always been consistent. Anytime Gator Sports
appreciate it.
Properties promises us something, they've delivered on it. and we look forward to continuing that relationship and holding up our end of the bargain too. You know, part of what our responsibility is to make sure that the Gator brand is not tarnished, and that, you know, we hold it in high regard because we value it that much.
Yeah, and absolutely. And if anybody listening, if they do want to get involved, I mean, feel free to reach out to Alex Noboa.
There you go.
Yeah,
So
Alex.Noboa at GatorSportsProperties.com.
I was going to ask you, repeat that real quick. What's the email address?
Yeah, you can reach out to Alex.Noboa, Noboa, at GatorSportsProperties.com.
Now, what if it's a smaller business, and is it worth them even reaching out to you? I mean,
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't want to scare people away when they see these national brands with us. We do have these local brands, and we have opportunities for these local brands. So yeah, absolutely we do.
I mean, we're one of them, and I can tell you that it's worked out very well for us, and we really have gotten a great response. In fact, we've continued to learn ourselves as we, are able to do more stuff, be out with the people more. COVID is kind of lifted, and the more that we get involved, the more that we learn. And I think it's one of those processes like where if you can get both the partners together on the same page, it makes it really easy. You know,
Absolutely.
It's not hard.
Yeah.
But we really are happy with Gator Sports Properties. Alex, before we have a couple minutes left, is there anything else you want to talk about? Any cool things that are coming up in the fall, or anything that we should look out for with regards to?
I would just say the new and exciting coaches that we're introducing into these sports. It's really going to be an exciting year with a new football coach.
Young, right? Todd Golden is. I saw him walking around.
Coach.
Or is it Todd Golden? Is that his name?
Yes, Todd Golden.
So I was downtown and I was waiting for a delivery, and I saw him walk by me, and I didn't have a chance to even say hi to him because I did a double take, and I thought he was like a college student.
Yeah.
He's he's in good shape. He's a young looking guy, so he's youthful. I'm sure that will help with his recruiting. You know?
Absolutely. And something that I think piqued the Gators' interest is his ability to look into analytics. I feel like that's a new thing on the sports side, and for him to bring that to our basketball program, I'm looking forward to that.
I am too. I think he's going to be a great coach, and I think Coach Napier's got, from what I've heard, a really organized plan in place, and that he's going to surprise a lot of people if he gets the opportunity. So we got to, support him and give him a chance.
Absolutely.
And so we've got a lot of really good things here coming up in the fall. Trinity Thomas just said she was coming back. So gymnastics. By the way, just so you know before we leave, the #1 ticket that's requested that we give away is gymnastics.
Yep, they sell out all their meets every year.
They sell them out every year. So, Alex, we have to get you back here soon. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
And I'll see you soon, my friend.
Yeah.
All right. We'll take a break, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
We are here at the University of Florida, where Albert and Alberta are competing in the Gator penalty shootout. Albert is ready to stop the shot at all costs. What a disaster! Luckily, Meldon Law is the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. If you have suffered any injury, do not worry, because Meldon Law is going to help you with your recovery. Meldon Law doesn't back down until they reach their goal.
We still hear it. The sound of victory. The joy of being part of something great. And while things may not be the same right now, we haven't gone anywhere. If you bleed orange and blue, then Meldon Law is the firm for you. When you're a member of the Gator Nation, you know what it means to never back down. Meldon Law has been a proud supporter of the Gator Nation since 1971. Two forces that won't back down. As the old saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
Well, I was in a truck accident. Because of the accident, I've resulted in 3 back surgeries. We saw advertisements on TV, and guess who popped up more often than not? It was Jeffrey. The communication that he provided was so appreciative. He shows his compassion as a human. He assisted us in achieving one of our dreams, the acquisition of a home, and we're here today with smiles on our face with the assistance from Jeffrey.
Oh my gosh, I can't even believe this. Look what you have done to my truck.
Excuse me, it's your fault, it's not my fault.
Yes, it is your
No,
fault.
it's not. No,
I am
it's not.
calling Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law.
So I'm gonna call Jeffrey, my husband.
Meldon Law, this is Jeffrey speaking.
This crazy here, this crazy lady, he might...
New client?
Yes, but this one might be a little tricky.
Good afternoon. We're back here at Meldon Law and Friends. This is attorney Carrie Meldon. I'm really excited about our next speaker, Noah Walker. I've got so much information in front of me, but we're going to try to get to as much as we can today. We may have to have him back again. We'll see how this interview goes, but I have a good feeling about today's interview. I think it's going to be really interesting, and I want anybody who is interested in marketing and community service to stay tuned to the second segment of this podcast, because I think you're going to be really impressed with Mr. Walker. One of the things that I always remind our listeners out there is that we do free giveaways on both Facebook and Instagram throughout the entire summer. Even though there's not tickets to sporting events, we're doing Yeti cooler giveaways. We also give away free gift certificates to restaurants such as Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, which is where we're sitting today in the podcast room. If you haven't been to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, I'm going to plug it again. You got to go. It's like a museum. Noah, what are your thoughts about this place?
Listen, I'm a little awestruck because I grew up, like you said, in North Central Florida, and I'm a lifelong Gator fan. So I grew up watching those 93, 94, 95, 96 seasons that were absolute magic and the come up of the Gators.
It's part restaurant, but it's also part museum. And so, I see my friend John on the outside. We got to bring him. He's with Gator Sports Properties.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so speaking of the Gators, you always can see, if you come to Spurrier's, you always see someone that's really famous too. There's usually a good celebrity viewing, at least local celebrity viewing, if you ever want to meet some people.
That's
but
awesome.
Before we get started, I just want everyone out there to know that if you have any questions, you can submit them via our Facebook page, and Evan, our producer, will make sure that we get a copy of it. So let's move right into the interview. Noah, thank you for being here today at Meldon Law and Friends. Although I'm sitting in for Jeffrey, who's in New Orleans at a seminar, I'm really happy. It's always fun. I always like to meet new people. And as I was given your bio prior to the podcast today, and I was reading through it, I could not believe how many things you've already done at what I would call your young age. But I know you've probably been working hard for a long time.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm sorry that you're here instead of in New Orleans, because I know my preference. I'd probably rather be on Bourbon Street than with me. But thanks for having me.
Of course.
Is a humbling experience. I've watched a couple of these. Actually, I've watched a lot of these episodes.
Wonderful.
You've had some great Gator greats in this seat.
Absolutely.
You've had James Bates, Chris Doring, some of those guys that I've watched.
Yeah. Do you know who our inaugural guest was, right?
Who?
Steve Spurrier.
Steve Spurrier. Well, there you go.
There you go.
Listen, I don't know why you have me here at all, because those guys are true greats. Yeah.
No. So I appreciate you staying tuned to the show. We started during COVID, and we have not missed a week.
How cool.
Since 2020.
That's dedication.
So
That's
even
good.
when one of us is not here, we make sure that someone is going to host the show. And for me, it's always fun because it gets me out of the office. So I can come out here to the west side of town and meet some really cool people. And, one of the things that I was looking at your resume, which is really, like I said, you've got a lot of stuff here, is that, you have background in sports, and you've, obviously have pretty strong ties in the North Central Florida community. So being, here in this, in this room
Listen.
must be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's very cool. I grew up in Live Oak,
Yeah.
which, if you don't know where that is, it's about an hour and a half to the northwest of Gainesville. And I watched the Florida Gators for a long time. It was either that or the Florida State Seminoles.
The Noles, right.
And whoever won that last Saturday of November, you just had to know that you're probably going to get into a fight the next Monday during elementary and middle school. So it is what it is. Yeah. I'm a sixth, seventh generation Floridian. Grandfather, great grandfather that were cattlemen out in Lafayette County, that kind of thing. A lot of history through that. I came down, moved to Gainesville in the 2000s. Went to UF. Was here to experience the wonderful era of Tim Tebow.
Were you here during the Billy Donovan
I was,
championships
yes.
too? Wow.
So I was graduating high school, and I was able to come down for a couple of those games at the end of high school. And then those next couple of years were just magic in football. I mean, you just had magic.
Incredible. Right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was incredible for a Live Oak boy to come down and be able to see that in person. Went to every home game for close to a decade, which was great. Saw, I think, the most magical moment I ever saw in the Swamp was Jarvis Moss blocking that field goal. And unfortunately, it was against Steve Spurrier's Gamecocks at the time. Yeah. But I've never heard the Swamp quieter and louder within like a 3-second span.
That's up there. I was there for that game. That was up there. Yeah, it was awesome.
Put us in the national championship. But so moved down. I went to Florida. You alluded to some sports background. I played rugby at the University of Florida.
That's awesome.
Played in the first ever.
What was your position?
So in 15, I played 8-man at lock for the majority of my collegiate career. So for the most part, it was 8-man, back of the scrum. And then in sevens, I played everything.
Okay.
Everything.
So I was in a rugby fraternity at William & Mary in Virginia.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't play rugby, but about 15 of my fraternity brothers did. And it's a seriously physical sport. If you think football is physical, rugby is a whole nother level in terms of the lack of protection you have when you're playing.
And what was really cool about that is on the occasion, whenever one of our Gator greats who played football those years would either time out of their time, they knew that they weren't going to go into the NFL, they would come down and start training and play with us. We had Troy Epps. And there was a couple of others,
huge
but
kids,
Troy Epps, I remember him specifically because he hit me so hard he knocked me right out of my cleats in the middle of practice.
I'm sure.
It was absolutely brutal.
Was he an offensive lineman or a defensive
He was a defensive end, so he's a defensive end.
Yeah.
He actually went to play in the USA rugby camp internationally for a few test matches, but he was incredible.
Yeah.
So I played rugby here at UF. I got a degree in economics, and then I went back and started working immediately in Lake City for, at the time, the same company that is All Things Visual now was the North Central Florida Advertiser then. And then I progressed a couple years later. I started working as the Director of Marketing and PR for HCA, which at the time was Lake City Medical Center, is now HCA Lake City Hospital, and HCA Putnam Hospital. So Palatka and Lake City, all of their subsidiaries were under my purview, and really just kind of had a jam up time with that.
So you're in college. When do you make a decision that you want to pursue this career?
Marketing?
Yes.
Not in college.
Okay, exactly.
So it's a really funny question because I was talking with the marketing assistant here in
Salma.
Salma. Yeah. She was talking through what her options were. And I said, take your time, be patient with yourself. As a 21, 22-year-old, you don't have a whole lot of life figured out. If you do, fantastic.
Right.
Make that money, do some great things, be very, very service-oriented and change the world. I didn't have that vision. So that's what I dove into. And you alluded to that as well. I dove into public service, joining Rotary clubs, doing as much for my community as I could, for two purposes, right? For the purpose, and then also to network and grow my network.
Absolutely. With like-minded professionals that were looking to become leaders in the community.
So, and then the marketing formed around that, right? So with my background in economics, I treated it very much like data mining then in 2012, 2013.
Which is still pretty early on when it came to the internet marketing as compared to where we are now.
Yeah, 100%. You definitely didn't have the tools that you have now. You didn't have all the access to data that you have now.
Right.
You could use it in different ways, direct mail, event outreach, et cetera, but yeah, you definitely couldn't be as pinpointed as you can now. But like I said, I got into Rotary. I started going to a lot of chamber mixers and some things there, which put me in a position to network onto the board, the chamber board in Lake City, eventually becoming the chamber president. I was invited to be on the board at FGC's foundation, Florida Gateway College in Lake City, which has a great nursing program.
Yeah,
started out as a forestry school, does a lot of great things in the community.
Yep.
The career source, at the time it was Florida Crown Board, which is the workforce development authority in that area. Its career source, it was Florida Crown, Workforce Florida Crown originally. It's been rebranded. The whole career source entity has been rebranded to Career Source X, and this one is Career Source Florida Crown. So I'm currently the chair of that, as well as the FGC Foundation, and both of those, I found that I was super passionate in my early 20s about growing my community and helping people reach economic
unique.
prosperity. Yeah,
there's not much. I know I didn't have that. I cared about people, but I didn't have that sense of civic community until later on. So the fact that you had that early on is an incredible virtue. I'll let the people out there know a little known secret. I'm going to give them the tip here. If you don't know, Lake City is one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Florida, and it is incredible the amount of growth economically, retail, everything is just growing and growing and growing. And so I see Lake City being one of those cities that 25 years from now, you may not recognize it as the same Lake City. And it's probably changed in the last 10 years.
Oh, big time, yeah. You can feel it.
Yeah.
You can absolutely feel that growth. I've always said, and when I started working up there, I said, wow, I can't believe Lake City hasn't started this boom yet. It's a keg of powder waiting for that spark.
Absolutely agree.
And now, that trickle, like in the old cartoons, that trickle of powders leading up to the keg, and it's burning right now. And eventually, and very soon, I think it'll absolutely ignite, and Lake City will become what it should be.
Right.
Yeah.
It really is. So for those listeners out there, if you have not been to Lake City, you got to check it out. Noah, we're going to go to break in a little bit, and when we do, I want to come back. I want to talk about your current position.
Yeah, cool.
And I know you're president of the company, and I foresee obviously some really big things in your future. So we'll talk about that. Before we do that, I want to make sure that if anyone out there is listening, they can get in contact with you. Why don't you just state the name of your company and the best way to contact you? Yeah,
great. So again, my name's Noah Walker. I'm with All Things Visual Marketing. You can find us at allthingsvisual.com. You can shoot me a personal email at noah@allthingsvisual.com. I don't mind sharing my cell phone number because I'm very, yeah. So 386-965-2917. Shoot me a text, shoot me a call. I love like you. Yeah. I love meeting people. You got to catch them all, right? So I love people. So give me a call.
So when we come back, we're going to talk more about what All Things Visual is and why you should be giving Mr. Walker a call. So Noah, fantastic. I appreciate you did a great job. Let's come back. We'll do a great second segment.
Great.
All right.
Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
We are here at the University of Florida, where Arbor and Alberta are competing in the Gator penalty shootout. Albert is ready to stop the shot at all costs. What a disaster! Luckily, Meldon Law is the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gator. If you have suffered any injury, do not worry because Meldon Law is going to help you with your recovery. Meldon Law doesn't back down until they reach their goal.
I was just talking to Noah about all the incredible witnesses that we have during the break, and Noah's no exception. He is really going to be someone that you'll probably will see in 20, 30, 40 years throughout North Central Florida as a leader. And he already is. I mean, gosh, you're 33 years old, right, Noah?
Yes.
And I know that you just are expecting your first child with your wife, who's sitting
Yes.
here at Spurrier's,
Yep.
waiting for us to finish the podcast. So
Yep.
I want to say congratulations. It sounds like it'll be a football fall birth.
She will be. Yep, it'll be November 20th is the due date. I'm married to the wonderfully beautiful and talented Shawnee Walker.
Wonderful.
She's also a North Florida native, first generation Floridian, I guess, because both of her parents are from out of state. But she grew up in Lake City as well. So.
And Shawnee works with Drummond Community Bank, so she's also
Yes.
a local supporter of businesses in her own way.
And a Florida Gator. So we met in Gainesville at UF. Me coming from Live Oak, met her down here in Gainesville while she was a student. I was a student. And yeah, she works in this area. She actually works out of the branch right here off of Archer from time to time with
Cool.
the incredible Melanie Shore, who, if you haven't had, is probably a good person. It's just,
I have not had Melanie on, but we're going to bring her on.
she's
Yeah.
great. But yeah, so she makes it down here quite a bit and networks and works with a lot of people around North Florida. So
Very cool. Well, let's talk about your company.
Yeah.
I want to talk about why don't we start from the origin?
cool. All right. So the company's older than I am by probably 40 years. Right. It started out as a shopper paper. Very in for your audience, if they aren't aware of the Lake City Advertiser, they may know what a thrifty nickel or a penny saver is. Right. It's a local
course,
classifieds paper. It was started 64 years ago. It's 1 year older than my mother, which I hope she's not watching. She'll probably give me a slap for that. But it's 1 year older. It's 64, a year older than my mom. And it started out as a shopper paper that was direct mailed to a lot of people. It was stacked, racked and stacked in the area by Don Dockery, who was a former editor of the Lake City Reporter, the local paper. They split. He started this, and it progressed until about 2005 when my family got involved with it. I was a freshman in high school at that point, or sophomore in high school. I went away to school, came back. I started working to launch an internet subsidiary of it called Lake City for Sale, which is very similar to Ocala for Sale. It was actually a franchise of the Ocala for Sale business system. It progressed until Facebook Marketplace launched and really kind of shoved us off the table. But the Lake City Advertiser stayed strong. We started looking at the time on how it had survived and done so well for so long. And part of that was the direct mail delivery.
Right.
In that we kind of realized that that we had a natural advantage and that we had a direct mail license, first class license to do bulk direct mail, and that it didn't have to be part of the paper, that they could be individual pieces. So that was the first branch out from the Advertiser.
And that's brilliant. You know why? Because the average person probably gets 100 emails a day. How many pieces of paper do they get?
2 or 3, yeah.
2 or 3.
2 or 3.
So we do a direct mail newsletter ourselves, and I think it's much more effective. And so the fact that you guys recognize that really early on, when everybody was trying to shift to digital, that's pretty cool.
And you can be very targeted with it too. And so we really started using kind of the sword and shield method of the Advertiser, the sword being direct mail. Well, then because we also started looking at the assets that we did have and our natural advantages as a company, we realized we had incredible graphic designers. So we started doing custom design for other companies, for other pieces. We launched a magazine called Family Magazine in the area in 2014. We put it together. From start to finish, we put it together in a month and had it out, also direct mailed into 10,000 plus homes in Columbia County, and then racked and stacked. And at this point, the advertiser was mailing to over 30,000 homes in the area.
Wow.
Yeah, which is a ton. And if you don't know direct mail, that's a ton. That's a big piece.
Yes, that's huge.
For a paper that size.
Especially for the city of Lake City at that time, probably was what, 90,000 people, 80,000 people, maybe less.
The census, the recent census has set at about 68,000.
Okay,
which I think is way
just for
under.
the city, just the
no,
city.
no, that's the
county of
So
Columbia. Okay,
Lake City is about 14 to 16,000. Like I said, it's been that way for 30 years. It's on the edge, and I think that the last census was wildly underreported just because of participation, which is unfortunate. So that was the entire county plus Suwannee and Hamilton counties as well.
Right.
Moved forward a couple years, we had done really well. We had networked. We started doing some digital marketing for folks around 2014, 2015, and I got a job offer from HCA Lake City Medical Center, and the CEO at the time asked me if I was interested in being a character of adventure. This is something that I had never done before, and a system that I had never touched, seen, smelled. I said, sure, I'll give it a go. So I was with HCA. I loved every minute of it for 5.5 years.
Right.
From 2016 to last year at this time.
And what was your positions within HCA?
Right. I was the director of marketing and PR.
Okay.
And it transitioned to the director of community relations and public relations for Lake City Medical Center. And then I kind of absorbed Putnam Community Medical Center. So I was that North Florida brand outside of the north side of Gainesville. Does that make sense? So from Palatka all the way to Lake City, except for Stark.
And for those listeners out there that don't know this, and I didn't know this probably until about 5 or 6 years ago. I was in Fort Lauderdale working down there, and I learned that PR is very different than marketing. They're not the same thing, and the skills that you need to be able to be successful at PR are completely different than marketing. And marketing is not always just advertising. There's just so many facets involved with doing that at that size, with that type of responsibility. That's really impressive.
It's a large engine, and PR is all about being able to predict or mitigate issues that could come up.
Absolutely.
And being able to dose responses to them and whatnot. It was a great experience. And it was Fortune 100 experience that I probably wouldn't have been able to get otherwise. So when we had some things happen in the company that necessitated me coming back to the company. My parents asked me if I was interested. I said, sure, I'll step in and help them out. I didn't know if it was going to be a temporary thing or a long-term thing. It's a long-term thing. I'm hooked again. The best thing about working at All Things Visual is I can walk in every day to create, to live, and to provide value to someone new through something new, and it's all just creation. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I love it.
When was it rebranded All Things Visual?
It was rebranded All Things Visual around 2016. So as I was leaving the company, we were going through a rebrand into All Things Visual because we had our products, which was the Lake City Advertiser and Family Magazine, and then we had launched our services of direct mail, printing, digital marketing, and some other things.
And that's a very difficult field to master. So I'm sure that that provided a whole different set of challenges back then.
Yes, it did,
and still.
And so coming back into the company and really kind of wrangling our services back up. What we still do are two products of the Lake City Advertiser. It's a weekly direct mailed shopper paper that we've had people stand at our counter and cry in gratitude because it's how they make their income in selling their chicken eggs or their hay bales or something to local folks.
I love that.
It's beautiful. We have Family Magazine, which helps tell stories of local people in our area to local people in our area and helps really kind of bring a cohesion to our community. And then we have our services, right? So we have our direct mail, we print, We do digital marketing services, social media, geofencing. We do production now. We do all kinds of things. In fact, we have this is a great podcast room. This podcast room beats our podcast room by a lot. But we now have.
Well, I don't own it, but thank you. I appreciate it. Yes.
No, it's beautiful. And what makes it beautiful are all these Gator emblems. We
of
we now
course.
have like one of those shiplapped studios with the shiplap wall in the back, and everybody who can sit and
That's
and
still
do this fun-
incredible. So you even do a podcast. So when you say all things visual,
It's
all
everything.
things
Yeah,
visual.
it's everything. Yeah, and really kind of how we approach our clientele for marketing services is we don't sell a service or a list of services to them. We bring them in and we talk them through a 3-step process, right? So we get to know their message, and then we refine their message. If they don't have a message, we help them define it, and we go through their core values, what their company does, why their company does it, and what that means to their consumer. And then we define and find their audience. We go through some studies where, I ask you, I say, hey, who is your perfect audience? Like who do you see the most in your law firm? Is that what you want to see in your law firm? What kind of case mix are you looking for? We help you figure out what those people do in their off time, what they do in their on time, if they have family, where they're spending time with their family, all of these things about your consumers. And then the third step is we connect your message to that audience through data. We pull a lot of data on where these folks are. We map it, and then we hit delivery points. And delivery points aren't the same for every demographic, right? Good way to reach families might not be direct mail or digital marketing, especially as people migrate to off time with their phones or their computers while they're at home with small children. And it may be at the ballpark. It may be setting up in-person activations at events. So we just get really creative around what the message delivery is. You guys do a great job of this. You guys have billboards everywhere. You guys literally are everywhere, right? So
we try our best to not be too much of a nuisance, but yes, and it is tough. It is tough. But I want to make sure that the people out there know how unique it is what you do. Because I've been studying marketing for 15 years. You have to in our industry. Although I love being a lawyer, I love arguing, I love being in court. I understand that if you don't get the best cases, you can't survive. And and the best lawyers don't always get the best cases. It's the best marketing lawyers get the best cases. And you know this. But the fact is, you're talking about core values, mission statement, vision statement. Why? Every business, whether you are an ice cream store or a lawyer or a hospital, has to know what their why is, right? And so you're telling, I think, the viewers out there is that you can help them discover why they do. And it sounds like it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's not. It took us 6 months to get to be able to render our
and it can be
statement.
uncomfortable. It
It's
can
very-
be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so my core values are honesty, integrity, and loyalty, because it's all about relationship building with our clientele and our community. Honesty, because that's the cornerstone of every good relationship. Loyalty, because that builds the longevity of that relationship. And integrity, because that helps me attract the customers I want. I'm morals over money every day.
Right.
And so if somebody wants to dose a problem with money and they have a moral issue, I might not be the marketing company for them. You know what I mean? And I don't want to. I'll help them find somebody, but
Well, no, you're selling me. I know we only got a few minutes left. We're going to have to have you back. For those people out there, do you have to be a certain size business to work for you? Tell me who your ideal client is.
our ideal client is high-end service professionals, right? So we deal medical, obviously, with my background. I've got a lot of experience in helping physicians, offices, specialty practices, facilities find their audiences and actually work in the PR sphere as well. So that's something that we do. We build out PR. We do a lot of digital PR too.
That's great.
And then, so those, and to define high-end service professionals, you've got your CPAs, your physicians, your lawyers, anybody who really
Dentists.
works, dentists, that what I would consider white-collar office level jobs,
Right.
in
Veterinarians,
services. Yeah.
basically anywhere, and you can take them, you can do everything for them. You're basically an all-service shop.
Yeah, we are an outsourced marketing department. Our employees become your employees, and then we help you again create your message, define and find your audience, and then dose the audience with that message, and make sure that you have all of the appropriate things, and that your staff have all the appropriate things to keep that a cohesive message.
Well, we're out of time. It's too bad because there's so much more information we want to get into, but we can do that again later. Thank you again, Noah Walker, for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having
This was another great episode. What an incredible couple of guests. Once again, go to our Meldon Law Facebook and or Instagram page to look at any of the new giveaways that we do, as always. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thank you for tuning in.